Thank you. Hi, I'm Jeff Cordtz. I've been a sales professional for over 40 years. And around my organization, I'm known as the seven-figure closer. Now imagine this. You've got a large sales presentation coming up, big one. They're going to have to hire more people to service the account when you win this. You come in confident and prepared because you know you've targeted your presentation directly on the critical issues that are of value to this client. You walk into the cavernous headquarters building to find out that they've changed the room. Doesn't matter. You'd be happy giving this presentation right in the lobby. You get up to the new room, the AV's not hooking up properly. You don't care. You could whiteboard this presentation from scratch if you needed to. You're thinking the competition shouldn't even bother showing up. You get into your presentation. You can tell it's resonating with the client. There's head nods, glances at each other. You can tell it's hitting the mark. You've prepared for every possible question they could ask you, so you answer each one confidently and thoroughly. Come to the end of the presentation, you know you've nailed it. And that's reinforced when the client comes to you and congratulates you on the way out the door. Ultimately, you win the business. And the next time you return to your office, your entire department greets you with high fives. They've decorated your office with congratulatory notes. And the CEO comes out and shakes your hand in front of the whole department and gives you a special acknowledgement at the next corporate meeting. I've had that happen. Or have we ever had this experience? Again, you're preparing for a big presentation. Heavy pressure. There'll be corporate layoffs if you don't win this account. You've been up most of the night before in the hotel room, reworking the presentation. But you know it's still not right. You can feel in your gut that it's not right. And you're worried that the competition is going to come in with something so much better. When you get to the location, the AV's not hooking up properly and you're panicking because you really need that video that you've got to show in the middle of the presentation. You finally hook that up, take the pressure off, but when you start the presentation, you can tell it's not working. The client's throwing questions at you that are throwing you off stride, making you reorder the topics in your presentation. There's no body language of any positive manner from the audience. You're getting the feeling that they're thinking, this is one of a whole lot of presentations I've had to sit through, and you're not showing me anything new. Ultimately, the presentation falls flat, you lose the business, and instead of going out and celebrating, you're left coming up with excuses as to why you didn't win and a strategy for how you're going to salvage your company's reputation with that customer. Which of those two outcomes do you want? Let me ask you a question. What are you hearing from your salespeople today? If your world is like mine, you're hearing things like, everything's price-driven. I can't get meetings with the right people. Purchasing controls everything. And ultimately, I can't sell value past the price. Is that what you're hearing from your salespeople? I don't buy that. I think the issues and obstacles we have as salespeople are primarily self-inflicted, and they're due to irrelevant messaging, poor planning, inadequate research, all of which results in the customer feeling like he'd be wasting his time in seeing us. Their feeling is salespeople get paid to make sales calls, whether they're relevant or not. And his time is valuable. Why should he waste it if it's not going to hit the mark? Your salespeople can learn an approach where their message will resonate with that target audience and get them meetings. Salespeople and sales teams that work with me learn an approach for developing and delivering sales presentations that win business. In my years of selling, this approach has allowed me to sell over $100 million in new business. Now, I go way back. I started making sales calls back when sales presentations were made with an overhead projector and acetate slides going on one by one. I've been there. I know what it's like to make bad sales presentations. I made my share of them early in my career, but not anymore. The approach I've developed has resulted in me not making a bad or irrelevant sales presentation in over 10 years. I'm told consistently by colleagues, and more importantly by clients, that I make the best sales presentations they've ever seen. And your people can too. Salespeople can improve. A lot of salespeople underperform for a majority of their career. And what's the normal direction they get when their numbers are off? Work harder, make more calls, close those deals that are in the pipeline or in the funnel. Well, working harder is not always going to be the best solution. Do they have a map or a guide as to how to move the opportunity forward? And if they do, is it the right map or the right guide? Because if you're lost in Chicago and you've got a map of Detroit, trying harder is not going to help you. We make our clients successful by giving them a guide that is custom tailored to their organization, to their industry, to their target prospects, and to their competition. We can do that for you. I'm not talking about traditional sales training programs. In my career, I've been through over 20 traditional sales programs. I've seen a lot of companies invest a lot of money in the hot training program of the day. They implement the infrastructure into the organization, and for the first 6 months, every sales coaching conversation uses their nomenclature. But it's never really fully adopted by the sales force. And after a period of time, it kind of falls off and goes away until a couple of years later when the same company invests in the new sales training program of the day. My approach took a long time to develop, and it applies end-to-end across all sizes of sales opportunities. Most recently, I used this approach to close a sale that was worth $20 million to my organization. But it's just as effective and applies just as well to a salesperson just starting out in the business. I remember what it was like to be new in the industry. I wish I had had this kind of a guide as I started out. For this end-to-end process, picture your salespeople being able to write an email or compose a voicemail that's going to make the customer want to see them. Picture their calendars filling up with appointments with the right people. Meetings through which they gather information that ultimately helps you for the ultimate thrill of sales, that stand-up presentation that wins you the business. Would you like your salespeople to develop and deliver more effective sales presentations? If so, contact me. I would be happy to give you a complimentary diagnostic that will show you exactly where your salespeople are, what areas improvement would drive positive results, and give you a guide for going forward. Think back on that initial sales presentation. Do you want to be the one to have the client come up and say, "That was the best sales presentation I've ever seen. You've won our business"? I look forward to talking to you, and I look forward to that handshake you get from the CEO. Thank you.